what year did you first start doing MMA? When did you have your debut?
My first UFC was 98, UFC 17, actually. I actually did a mixed fight at Orleans Casino before that. It was open hand. It was like, it's weird. Like, started out, the guy, Nick One Kick from Vegas, was put on a kickboxing show, and he wanted to do like 3 mixed fights. So they were doing pancreas.
Yeah, pancreas style.
So they would hit with the palm, and they would be able to strike on the ground. And by the time I got there for weigh-ins, they changed the rules so you could slap with the front foot. You could still kick, and then but if you got taken out, if it was on the ground, it turns into a wrestling match. Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm already here. Like, whatever, let's go. I actually wound up kicking the guy in the head, knocking him out, and then someone asked me if I want to fight in the UFC. I'm like, sure.
Why not?
Because back then, everybody talk about that, like, oh man, you fight in the UFC, go in this tournament, you get into it. And like my trainer went and whatever, all these things. Yeah, sure, I'd love to fight in the UFC, but how do I get in? Yeah. And back then, it was just I didn't know how. So some guy asked me, "You want to fight in the UFC?" Sure, let's do it. So I went and got offered $1,000 to fight in a tournament and be an alternate to like a 4-man tournament, and that was the start. UFC 17. So
was that only your second fight?
Mixed fight, yeah. I did kickboxing before that.
Yeah, you'd done lots of... How old was you when you first started kickboxing?
I was, 22?
Yeah.
I did karate since I was 12.
Yeah.
Started in martial arts. Did wrestling in high school and college. And then after that, I started kickboxing just to keep competing. And then I went on to... I got lucky. I was thinking about when they offered me that fight. I was thinking about, my grandma was giving me a lot of pressure to get a real job. Yeah, I was actually thinking about going because I had an accounting degree, so I was like, I was going to go get an accounting job. Can you believe it? Me an accountant.
You sitting behind the desk with a suit on.
But no, it worked out better for me. It was fun.
What was the sport like then, though, in the dark ages? Because obviously it's different for me. Like, I've seen the sport, like, I started watching since like 2009, 2010. Like, I've seen the sport become mainstream, but when you first started doing it, like, people didn't even know what MMA was.
Yeah, people know. Look, I go on people, and you guys even train or anything? You just get off a bar stool and go fight? Yeah. All the time. You get that. I used to get it, and I spent a lot of time trying to educate people. Yeah. And because we'd go and the guys wouldn't even go to do a radio interview. They wouldn't even read their one sheet. They have no idea what MMA is. Yeah. They'd ask you if it's like pro wrestling. They'd ask the dumbest questions, and it was just hard to do an interview. Then I actually got my manager's sister was offered to do a interview, like coach me on interviews. Yeah. On how to do an interview, and she's like, write out the 10 most common questions you get. I wrote out 10 questions. She you got 2 questions here, and they both suck. And so what I want you to do is when you go out there, the best advice I got: go out there, whatever dumb question they ask you, answer it yes or no, and then talk for about a minute and a half. Tell them what you want to talk about for about a minute and a half, whatever you want, and then if they're any good at all, they'll be able to play off something you said, and you'll be able to play. And most radio guys are really good at that, and then they like you because you're an easy to work with guy. Yeah. And it worked out. And Dan was like, man, he was so excited because he was like, you always tell me, you got to get better at interviews. I'm like, that's like. It's like me walking up and telling you, hey, you got to get better at punching. Yeah. Okay? How? But yeah, so I finally, I told him, man, he said, what happened, man? What you're doing so good? I'm like, I just got a coach. I had two sessions with her, and that was it. And it made it a lot easier to do interviews. Yeah.
I knew you were before I started watching MMA because of like Entourage. Yeah. And stuff like that. I saw you in other stuff before I ever watched MMA.
A lot of that was on purpose. A lot of that stuff. Like I went out and asked everybody I knew to get on Entourage. Yeah. I love that show. I thought it'd be great. And we were always trying to get on things. Like I did Dance with Stars, not because I wanted to go dance. So it's a different demographic. It's a different audience. We're trying to grow a sport. We're trying to get people to take a look at us. Anybody that, I know that guy. Oh, he's not a Neanderthal. Okay, he's all right. It was fun doing it that way. We got to go, try to convince people, try to educate them on it's a sport, what we do and how we do it. But even back then, we were all still trying to figure it out too. Because most guys came in, they come in with like boxing or or they have the striking, or they're a wrestler, or the jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah.
And for me, one of the advantages I had in the beginning was I was a wrestler and a striker. So I just had to learn that. I learned jiu-jitsu and how to use that, and it was, and I had a good coach for that too. So it was good. Got to learn pretty quick, but you learn on the fly. Yeah. Because it was a real interesting time. Like nowadays, it's like saying the guys are going to getting better and better, because now guys are coming out. They're starting out as kids, trained in mixed martial arts. They're learning it. They've got coaches that know what they're doing. You got strength coaches. You got and we know how to mix it together. Know how to coach you. We're just trying to figure out, how do you spar? How do you train? What's the right way to do this? What's the right way to do that? So, but it was a great time too. I wouldn't give it up. I love learning.
Yeah, back when you first got into MMA, it would have been like a boxer taking on a wrestler, and like a jiu-jitsu fighter taking on like a Muay Thai fighter. Would have been like disciplines versus disciplines. Yeah, there are still some people hanging on to that too. Yeah. Like some of the guys, I love them to death, but like Coleman and those guys that they were trying to prove wrestling's the best. Yeah, that's I just want to prove our style, but forget the other stuff. I want to prove wrestling's the best, but everybody, you had to be good at everything. Yeah, you have to be. I mean, to be good at the top level, you have to be at least proficient at everything. Yeah, you could have one you're better at, or you need one to stand out. You need one that you can really dominate in. Yeah, but you have to be decent in all three. You was the first type of UFC champion what done that though. Like, you could wrestle and you used it to defensively wrestle, to stay on your feet and to strike. You know what I mean? And even if you went on the floor, you had jiu-jitsu to back it up and get yourself back to your feet. Like, you was probably the first UFC champion out of them all to have that. Yeah, and that was one of the things. Like, for me, I spent a lot of time on a limited part of jiu-jitsu. Like, I liked getting off my back, getting out of bad positions, staying out of submissions. I learned because I wasn't slick. I wasn't going to be slick enough to catch guys that are good. Yeah. So it's funny. I always roll with guys. Like, first time I rolled with guys, I think the first time I rolled with Glover, Texera. Yeah. First time I rolled with Glover, and it's like I almost got him in a triangle because he wasn't expecting me to shoot it. He's like, oh shit. He wasn't expecting me to do it. I was like, damn. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I did. I mean, I still to this day, people are like, man, I know you can wrestle. I remember wrestling. I was wrestling Alistair Overeem in Holland way before we fought. And first I goes, man, I thought you were a kickboxer. I swept and got on top, went for an arm bar, missed it, and then did it again. I swept him again from bottom, and went for it again. Man, you don't have takedowns on you don't have submissions on the video game. I started laughing. You don't have submissions on the video game. Yeah, he was funny. He's a good dude. Oh, what a shout! That was when Alistair was still killing himself to make 205 as well. Yeah, that was. He looked like that. Oh yeah, like he looked like a string bean. Yeah, good old days. Yeah, back in the day. But you, as I say, you've seen the sport mature. What's like the biggest differences you've seen in the? Like I said, I think everybody's got more diverse. Everyone's able to transition better. Guys are still, and like I said, they're starting out with training it from the beginning. They're learning. They're already trying to mix it. It's not just a one-sided thing. Yeah, I think that's how personally I put that towards why I got good quick, because I just went to the gym and done MMA. I didn't start doing jiu-jitsu and then doing wrestling after it. I done everything at once. I went and done Muay Thai classes, jiu-jitsu classes, wrestling classes. So I was building my MMA game the whole time from day one, where you was doing karate and kickboxing first and just developed into MMA. Yeah, and so it's and like I said, we were still trying, back in the day, we were still trying to figure out how do we mix these together. Yeah. How do you spar this? How do we spar that? How do you do that? How do you train for a fight with your, so it was a lot of different adjustments. It was a fun time, but yeah, a lot of changes. Yeah. And as you said before, you were in Entourage and stuff like that. You was the spearhead for MMA going mainstream. What was that like? Because you was literally the main person though. it was all boiled down to.
It was a busy time, and when you weren't fighting, there weren't as many fights back then. There's only five UFCs a year, so they can only use you a couple of them, so you got extra time for the most part.
Yeah.
But I spent a lot of time traveling and doing stuff. We were going different places, doing a lot of different promotions but back then, like I said, there was only a few guys people knew.
Yeah.
So any of the bigger outlets, okay, we want one of these 3 guys.
Yeah.
And I was one of them. So we need him to be there. They don't want just anybody. They wanted, me. So with that, it's turned out for me, and for me, it worked out for me too. Because as far as crossing over and still being able to still go out and do things and still make money and do other things after I retired, I can't complain.
Yeah.